Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Welcome along. How are we doing? Yeah. So many dojo people. It's like this little cult group in itself. So welcome to this side. So I'm really excited to be here tonight. It's always an honour to be able to interview phenomenal people, but particularly when they originally come from where I come from, which is Perth, Western Australia. So Micheal, you guys already know, right? You already know he's awesome. So we've got the opportunity to learn a bit more about his journey tonight and, what he's actually doing here in Bali, which some of you know, but what got him here in the first place, because his story's pretty exciting. So we're just going to free flow. How does that sound? You just go with the flow, and what Micheal wants to share with you, he shares. How's that sound? Cool. So let's give Micheal Craig a big round of applause.
Thanks.
All right. So, your journey, from what I have read, started at about the age of 8. Is that right?
Yeah, well, that's when I first started using computers, yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know if anyone's old enough in here to remember, but the ZX Spectrum was a computer, and just had to learn how to code, and that involved like copying a 300-page book of code, and if you made a mistake, then you had to go back and rewrite it all again because there was no storage, so you had to get it right every time. Yeah.
Who's done that? Like when they were really young, they have started what they're actually doing now, or something similar. So when you were at a young age, yeah, it's kind of cool, right? So that sort of obviously led you on to further things as you got older.
Yeah. After that, at school. I think this is going, I can't remember, 94, 95, maybe earlier. One of the teachers came up to me and said, I noticed you're pretty good on the computer. And I was like, I didn't know that. And he goes, we've got about 14 laptops in the school that every time we have a lesson, all the laptops, they're destroyed, like all the kids delete everything off them. And I can't teach my lessons, so I'll pay you to come to school and then look after all the computers. I was pretty hesitant on that because I knew I'd get beaten up if people knew about that. So I said, okay, I'll do it as long as you don't tell anyone about it. And then he gave me an office at school, and yeah, then I started fixing the computers manually for about 2 weeks, and then I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So then I think the internet had just sort of started in Australia, and I went to an internet cafe because the school didn't have internet. And I went down there and I'd sort of learned how to code. So I wrote a program that's in Windows now called Active Directory, but it's just a thing that restored the computer every time so you had the lesson. And then I remember doing it and implementing it on all the computers, and I didn't have to work anymore. But I didn't tell him that. And then I remember in the corridor one day, he came up to me and he's like, I was trying to avoid him because I didn't want him to know I wasn't doing any work and I was still getting paid. And I think it was $50 a week then too, which was good money because like I was working at Burger King when I was 14 as well, and I was like $100 a week. And he said, you're doing such a good job on these computers. And I was like, Mr. Mills, I've got something to tell you. Like, I wrote a program and they just fix themselves now. and he's like, I said, I guess you're not going to pay me anymore. He goes, no, we'll keep paying you. So, and then that's when I realized that you can make a lot of money off computers.
How cool is that? So when that obviously led into, you were still at school, so...
Yeah, I was year 10, so yeah.
So did you finish
2
school?
years after that.
You
I
did
finished
year 12?
year 12, yeah.
Yeah, and then when did Clue Design start?
That sort of started around the same time. I think I was just like Clue... I think I was about 17, I can't really remember, but it's probably over 22 years ago now or something. But yeah, I just was graffitiing on paper, and I didn't understand what I was going to call my business, so I called it. I didn't have a clue, so I was like Clue Design, and then I thought our clients don't have a clue about what they're doing, so that's why I called it Clue.
Yeah.
Probably not the best name, but like, and then, and then I started that. But at the same time, I was fixing like computers and stuff for like the lawnmower man down the road. And then I realized I was getting paid $25 an hour, and that was like I was getting paid $5 an hour at Burger King. So I was just kept getting more jobs where I was fixing stuff, and then I was doing art, and then got into graphic stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, cool. So it's been going for a long time now,
Yeah.
and you're over here, so it's running efficiently over there.
Yeah.
Let's go through a couple of things. As you went through your journey, what did you find your biggest challenge in the earlier days of when you were kicking off, right back when you started? What was the biggest challenge you experienced?
Well, I was 15, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. The best thing about starting really young is you've got it doesn't matter about risk.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest challenge was getting older people to take me seriously. So I'd rock up to, this is a bit later, but I'd rock up to boardrooms and I'd just be wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and I wouldn't be wearing like a suit. And they would concentrate on that.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, well, okay, you don't want me then. See you later.
Yeah.
And that worked because then they wanted me.
Yeah. So you didn't even really know who your market was back then?
No, because I was so I did the fixing computers, and then a friend of mine, a family friend, said, "Oh, look, Mike, what are you going to do after school?" And I was already doing work, and my dad had a company who was selling boats, like luxury boats, and he sort of posed this problem that he was having with his business, and he said, "Oh, the internet's around, and I think we can put all the boats on the internet." I was like, okay, and then I'd started interactive multimedia and instructional multimedia, so basically how to manipulate people through computers, which was fun. And then one of the projects in that course was for my old man's business, and I built a database for him, and we put all his boat listings online. That's 96. So back then, a computer was about $5,000. It was really expensive, and not many people had them. The only people that had them were lawyers, doctors, accountants, people with money. Yeah. And then I put that live, and then they all saw it because they all wanted to buy boats. And then they started contacting my old man, going, "Hey, who did this?" And then he said, "Oh, my son." Yeah. And that's how it started. So I just did good work, and then I got another client, and then another client, and then another client, and then another client. It just kept going like that.
So when was it that you decided that you need to get others to come in and work with you?
Oh, about 18. I got a mate to start working for me straight away, because my dad said he said if you want to make money, you have to have someone working for you. Yeah. That's the only way. Yeah. And so I got someone started to work for me straight away. So, yeah.
How many do you have now?
I don't know, probably 60 or maybe 70. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Are they all back there? Or is it remote? Some work remotely?
I've got people in India, Philippines, Indonesia, Australia. Yeah. So there's the team in Australia, they run Clue Design. And then we've got a software product called Mintox, which is a software platform that I've been building. And yeah, it fluctuates depending on what's happening in the market and stuff, yeah.
It's, because it can be really tough out there in business when you're starting off way back there, and making sure that as things start to change in the global economy, that you go with it, because, it's technology, right? So you went from a stage of...
Yeah, we went through the dot-com boom when it was all just going gangbusters. And I remember there was other agencies in Perth that were charging, $200,000 for a website back then. They're not around, any of them today. But yeah, and then I was charging $800 for a website when I was that age. And then I realised my value pretty quickly. And then I was like, if I'm making this guy money, then I've got to be charging a lot more. But you have to know what you're doing to charge more. Yeah.
It's an interesting market out there with websites at the moment, because you can actually go online, get templates and do it yourself. What makes you so unique that you obviously have the business coming to you, that people want to pay money for what you're doing as opposed to going maybe doing it themselves?
There's no comparison. Like go out and use Wix or one of those startup websites. Your website will never do the kind of money that you need to make if you've gone out and got a professional designer that understands your business and went from the start. They interview you, they workshop it, they understand your values, which goes through to your design, it goes through to your user interface, it goes through to your data structure. I'm out. It goes through to every single aspect of the web application, really. I mean, I hate the word website. So I think like what you're building is you're building a web application for a business. If you want a brochure, go do a brochure. You're not going to get much business off it. Yeah.
So it's from the very beginning to the results they get at the end. It's not just about having something pretty that's online. So
it's be pretty, but like I don't know. I built over about 1,600 web applications. So. And in that time, I'd do businesses in the same vertical as well. So I'd have like 5 clients all in engineering. And I'd have 20 clients all in retail. And then I'd be able to compare like what they were like, each business and what they were doing, and see which ones work. They couldn't see that because I was managing it all. But there's no comparison. Like you might be, okay, you go out in one of those, I mean, some of the Shopify sites and stuff like that are really good, but and some of the applications are really good, but I don't know. I just think that design is when you consider stuff. Like you need to consider everything, so every single aspect. Microphones. Okay. You got to consider every single aspect, like of everything. So. That's what an agency does,
So how can we just got to make sure this mic's working. How do people know to come to you then? How do you market yourself?
I don't do any marketing.
Yeah. So it's word of mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never spent a cent on marketing ever in business.
Which is kind of interesting, because what you are really doing is people's marketing. It's allowing people to be out there, right?
People are coming to me to get them to make money online, so therefore I should be able to know how to do it without advertising.
Totally.
Otherwise, like, why would they come to me? Yeah. If it always just used to laugh when all the web companies used to put advertising in the newspaper. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, you obviously don't know how to do stuff, because you have to put marketing material in a newspaper.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And we've got the iLab group. There's current fast growth tech group that are here at the moment, and they're just going through all this, and it's how you actually differentiate yourself and have that journey so that people want to come on that, as opposed to being mainstream, where you think, just say, for the want of a better word at the moment, like creating websites becomes a norm and how you be different, but you create something that fits with people, and then people go and tell others, and then it's an obvious and you don't have to do anything else. So referral based is always the best, right?
Yeah. Well, people buy into the story. Yeah. So, like, I heard something one time, it was like, okay, so categorize all your clients, put everyone into A, B, and C. All your A class clients, you treat like gold and do everything that they want. Or your B class clients, tell them okay, they've got to move to an A. So how do you do that? You put your prices up.
Yeah.
If they don't, then they go to a C. And all your C-class clients, put your prices up even more because they probably don't respect you.
Yeah.
And then just keep... like, people think that you have to have all these customers. You have to have all these customers. Some customers cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I'd get rid of those customers.
Yeah.
Like, we fired customers.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I want to work with someone that's an asshole?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't respect what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Okay, so let's talk about the people that actually work for you, with you. So, how does someone come and work with Michael Craig in your team?
Where? Here.
Let's just say Clue Design.
Well, I mean, I've put that under management, so I gave away shares from the business and gave it to my staff there. Yeah. So they're in charge of that now. And I've got a general manager, and he's hiring, he's recruiting. They'll put it through me and go, oh, we're going to hire this guy. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay. Yeah. But I mean, we hire on character, not on skill. Yeah. Like, we were hiring for another front-end developer the other day, and one of the guys had more skill, but the other guy had more character. So we hired the guy with character. Because you can teach skill, you can't teach character. Yeah.
Valid point. Okay, so that then has led you here, somewhere between that and now you're over here. So tell us the story of how, what got you finishing up where you're at, or still having Clue Design in Perth, but now being over here.
Well, it's hard to condense Clue Design into a small thing. I mean, like, it's 20 years running Clue, and then I literally burnt myself out. I think it was before the 2009, the recession and stuff. That's when, like, things sort of hit hard in that business. Hang on, the boom, I can't remember what was first, the boom or the recession, but when the boom was on, like the mining boom in Australia, it was killer. We were pumping. And like, I got into situations where I lost, we had to go get an overdraft and borrow $200,000 from the bank, and that was probably running like that for about 3 years in the business. That was really stressful when you owe someone $200,000, and then you'd be like, the business goes boom, boom, like this, and it's like, you don't want it like that. You want it to be going like that. So if you condense it down over a few years, it's going like that, and then you might go through a period where, like, the market changes, or where you put under extra pressure, because it's like hard to go from different stages in the business and hire more people and get more work in and do all that without and managing that growth. Because I mean, I've seen a lot of businesses fail in Australia because they can't manage the growth as well. But what was the question?
Actually, before we get on to that, because that's the thing, is like, you go through peaks and troughs.
Yeah.
So what did you do, apart from borrow the money, what did you do when the times were lower to be able to sustain the business?
Just work.
Yeah. Did it?
Like,
so
when I first started, I didn't go out, like, I say I started my business when I was 15, and then when I was probably around 19 to 23, I didn't go out, I didn't party that much. But I would be working, and I started off with a little studio at home, and I worked at home. And when I first started my business, I went to my grandparents and I said, "Oh, can I borrow $5,000 to start my business?" Yeah. And they, "What do you want?" And my grandfather's he's passed away now, but he was a very good businessman, and he goes, "That's right, you can borrow it, but you got to pay back interest, and you want a contract, and I want to see what your business plan is." I was like, oh, okay. And then I said, I want to buy a printer, a stapler, a receipt book, and a computer, and that's what I bought. And then that's how I started. And then got printing from, did posters and stuff like that for different things. So I was just doing everything. Yeah. But then the first few years, I was just working like 14, 16 hours a day for like 4 or 5 years. Yep. Yeah.
So you went from that, and like I was saying, you've got to the position where you're now over here. So what stage was Clue Design at for you to make the decision to move to Bali?
It was at a very good stage.
How long have you been here in Bali?
Over 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've had an office here for about 15 or something, 12. I've had people working here for 12 years. Yeah. Yeah, just I don't know. There's just a point where it just cracked, and you're like, boom, and then it just goes off, and then you're getting lots of big clients, and then we're doing like some jobs are like $1.6 million for a site, but like in a night would make them $1.2 million in sales in a night, in a 24-hour period. Yeah. So they're like, I did a rough calculation on some of my clients the other day. There was like for every dollar they spent with us, they're making $48. So it's like you don't need to market when you can do that because you just go in and say, hey, look at this, and showing them examples. So when the business was going really good then, I was under a lot of stress. I didn't know. I think everyone, when they get to about 30 or something, they start going, what the fuck am I doing? And I think it's between 26 to like 34. Most of my mates get to this period, you're like, I don't know, it's like the midlife crisis comes early now. I don't know if it's that. But I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I making this money? Like, I had the boat, the fast car, superficial girls, good mates, but I was like, I'm not happy. And then I realised I just wasn't happy. And then one of my general manager at the time, he sort of said to me, we came up here for a meeting. He goes, oh, Mike, you seem really like you're happy in Bali. I was like, yeah, I am. And he's like, why don't you just stay? Yeah. I was like, yeah, why don't I? And then I just went back and just sold everything and then moved over. And then I just partied for 3.5 years.
Okay, so when was Dojo born?
Well, I had the idea in Australia to set up, I didn't know co-working or anything like that, but when we had the web company there, I was thinking of setting up a retail coffee shop that we'd have all our developers behind a glass wall, and then the customers could come in and like watch them like in a fishbowl. I don't know. But then they could like employ them and they could like interact with them in the shop. That was my first idea. And I actually went out to go get the lease on a property and stuff, but it was too expensive and I didn't want to risk it. Anyway, that sort of went away. And then I moved to Bali, and a friend of mine, I was telling a friend of mine, she was a copywriter and she was working for me. And in Bali, she was working on my Australian company. And I was telling her about this concept of making having a pool and then having people that was working around it. You got photographic studios, art studios, there's people working on computers, there's models walking around. It's my dream life.
Yeah, reality, right?
And then she went away, and then a couple of months later she came back, she was over at my house, and she goes, oh, do you know there's this thing called co-working? I'm like, nah. And she's like, oh, there's this place up in Ubud. Maybe you should go check it out. And so I went up there, and I was like, I had to do some work, so I just signed up for 25 hours at Ubud, and then I was working in there, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I didn't think anything much more of it than that. And then a few months later, I think I was meditating and doing pranayama, and this vision came to me. I am not shitting you. And this vision came to me, and it just sort of said, if you do this, it was just you can have this space, and then you can create change, and you can, it's all going to be good. Everything is going to be good. That was this feeling. Yeah. And so then I was like, whoa. Okay, I came out of that. I was like, that's really weird, because I'm not that sort of spiritual sort of person. And and then I was like, yeah, maybe I could do this. And I started thinking about it, and then I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then I went to Ubud and we spoke to Steve. I was like, hey, I want to start one like this. And they were so open, they were so receptive. and I couldn't. That was like I don't in business. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Like I can do my own thing. I don't have to compete with your thing and be a prick and make it difficult for you and like try and compete with you. Like I just don't do that. And so that's why I went to them first to say, hey, I want to start it, but I'm not going to tread on your toes. I just want to. Yeah. And that they were like, they set the tone of saying, hey, what do you want to know? Yeah. And they said they were open book, and because someone did that to them as well. So that was good. And then I don't know. Then I think I just started drawing. Yeah.
So how much is it modelled off that and other co-working places?
It wasn't modelled off it. Yeah. Like I liked the concept, but I didn't want to do their concept. They have a different community. They have like different ideas, but no. I like originally. So what happened was that in I don't know when, but it doesn't matter. But the original concept was that I went and got an architect, and we started designing like I've still got it. It's all ready to go. A pretty big space, which is in Seminyak. And I bought all the land. I've got all the land there. I demolished all the buildings. I've got all the architecture stuff ready to go, off knowing nothing about co-working and not knowing. I didn't know there's people called digital nomads. I had no idea. And then I just I was bored. I wanted to do something. So I was like, I've been in Bali partying. I was like, I can't just do this continually forever. That's the whole reason I moved away from Australia, is to get some like clarity and sort of balance. So I just got bored. And then what the other thing is, I couldn't have, like, you go out to places and you really couldn't have good conversations around like Canggu and Seminyak and stuff. Everyone was drunk. You know, and they're just all talking about surfing. And I mean, I love surfing, but it was just like, come on, this is ridiculous. Like, so I was like, the only way I'm going to do this is if I build my own. Yeah. And then that's how I started thinking, okay, we'd do it. And then we started designing it. We're looking at different spaces. And the original idea was my dev team was going to work in there. So it didn't really matter. I didn't care if no one came there. Yeah. I was just like, my dev team's going to work in there. I'm going to work in there. And it's going to be a nice place where I can go and just work in a nice place. Yeah. And then I was about to sign all the contracts to start building, and then the space where Dojo is now sort of became available, and those guys were wanted to get rid of the space, and it was pretty run down, and it wasn't good. And then I was like I'm going to take this opportunity, and I just shelved all that, and then went straight into Canggu. Yeah.
Okay, so there's been a lot of attempts of co-working spaces, and they haven't worked for different reasons. How have you attracted all these guys?
I have no idea. Again, I look, it just came down to like, I just want to do something that I like doing. And I think it's like anything in business that you do. If you've got passion behind what you do, it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter, because like individually, if you're really confident in yourself and you're confident with your own passion, like, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't really, you need to worry about finances, but like, you just do what you do what you're good at. And then you'll get people just attracted naturally to that, I think. And then Dojo is nice to come in and look at. That's the first thing I concentrated on. I was like, everyone said, you've got to build community first. I was like, no, you don't. I wanted to build a space that was nice, that a community could come into, because the community still needs a space around it, and they need different areas to interact and to be quiet and all that sort of stuff. So I think the space has a lot to do with it.
So you've created a space that you like, and obviously it's conducive with others and what they love as well. And is it, like transient, and a lot of people come and go, or? Yeah.
Like that, if I was a person that was using the space, because I'd already been in Bali for a long time and I knew how expensive the internet was. I think I was paying like $2,500 in my villa for my connection to talk to Australia. And I was like, for me, that's the cost of doing business. Like, That's just the cost of doing business. If the internet's bad, I cannot afford for that to be down 5 minutes because I'm going to lose $1,000. So I might as well pay $2,500 and have something that I can rely on and know that I'm always good. So that was the first thing. I was like, the internet is just shocking. So I would want, the first thing was having good infrastructure. I knew people's laptops were getting continually fried. So the first thing I worked on was the infrastructure. And I worked for 3 months on the internet at the dojo. I just taught myself how to network and do network. It's crap, but yeah. But no one here could do it. So I got so many people in to try and do it, and no one could do it. So I was like, that's it. I mean, Kat knew I was there till like 4 o'clock in the morning, every morning, just working on the internet. And then I knew that if that was stable, it's like if the people are in the space and they don't have to think about that, they shouldn't have to think about the internet. Like if they're thinking about that, then they're not thinking about who they're going to talk to. Yeah.
What they're there for.
Yeah.
I am going to pass it over to the guys to ask you some questions. But first of all, where does the name dojo come from?
It's dojo. It's a Japanese name, which means place of the way. That's the direct translation. Like I've got a sort of fascination with Japanese Bushido code and like strategy and stuff like that. It comes from that. So the place of the way was where a training hall for like people to practice martial arts, but it means the way in Japanese means a way to enlightenment. So that's appropriate.
Sounds like a good name, right?
And it needed to be like, I'm going to go, where are you going? I'm going down to Canggu co-working office space. It's like, that's crap. Yeah. It's like, where are you going? Going to dojo. Yeah. So that sounds better.
Yeah. How important is the name?
Very.
In any business?
I think the name's more important than the logo. All these people spend so much time on logos. It's just like, whatever. Yeah. Just have a name. Yeah.
Name that you're known by. Cool.